Hi, I'm Pete Smith, and this is the Notice of Election. Notice of Election to the resident qualified voters of the Long Island Village defined area of the Laguna Madre Water District. Take notice that an election will be held in the Long Island Village defined area of the Laguna Madre Water District on May 7, 2022, concerning the issuance of bonds in accordance with an order that reads substantially as follows. Order calling a bond election in the Long Island Village defined area of the Laguna Madre Water District and making provisions for conducting such election and other provisions incidental and related thereto. Whereas the Laguna Madre Water District, the district, duly operates as a conservation and reclamation district under and essential to accomplish the purpose of Section 59, Article 16 of the Texas Constitution, and whereas the district currently operates pursuant to Chapters 49 and 54, Texas Water Code as amended, and whereas pursuant to Sections 54.801 and 54.805 of the Texas Water Code, the district has designated the, quote, Long Island Village defined area, end quote, the designation order, to receive services and improvements that benefit the designated area rather than the district as a whole. And whereas the designation order contains a metes and bounds description of the property within the Long Island Village defined area, a copy of which is on file with the district, which is also described as the boundaries of the Long Island Village, a condominium association operating pursuant to Chapter 82 of the Texas Property Code as amended, and whereas the district may issue bonds if the resident, qualified voters of the Long Island Village defined area approve the same, whereas the Board of Directors of the district, the board, deems it advisable to call the election hereinafter ordered, and whereas there has been approved the date hereof and filed in the office of the district, open to inspection by the public, an engineer's report covering the facilities to be voted, including the works, improvements, facilities, land, plants, equipment, and appliances to be purchased, acquired, and constructed by the district and the property, contract rights, rights of use and interests in property to be purchased or acquired, as well as the estimated cost of all the foregoing, together with maps, plats, profiles, and data showing and explaining the report, and the report has been carefully considered by the board and has been fully approved by the board. However, the engineer's report is not part of the proposition to be voted on or a contract with the voters. And whereas said works, improvements, facilities, land, plants, equipment, appliances, property, contract rights, rights of use and interests in property are designed and intended to expand and improve the waterworks system and sewer system for properties inside the Long Island Village defined area, and whereas the engineer's report, heretofore filed and approved, contains an estimate of the cost of the purchase, acquisition, and construction of the proposed works, improvements, facilities, land, plants, equipment, appliances, and an estimate of the district's cost due or to become due under contracts, and the cost of purchasing and acquiring such property, contract rights, rights of use and interests in property, administrative facilities, and expenses incident thereto as generally follows. Proposition A, construction costs. Total estimated costs. Water system improvements, $7,765,000. Sewer system improvements, $11,960,000. Total Proposition A construction costs, $19,725,000. Non-construction costs. Legal. Bond counsel, $200,500. Attorney General, $19,000. Paying agent, registrar, escrow agent, $9,000. CUSIPs, $2,000. MAC fee, $5,000. Travel, $1,500. Texas Commission on Environmental Quality Bond Issuance Fee, parentheses 0.25%, $50,000. Postage and Federal Express, $1,500. Miscellaneous, $6,500. Financial Advisory Fee, $270,000. Texas Water Development Board Origination Fee, parentheses 2%, $410,000. Contingencies, $100,000. Total Proposition A non-construction costs, $1,075,000. Total Proposition A bond issuance requirements, $20,800,000. Whereas the Board finds that the above estimate of $20,800,000 is reasonable and proper and hereby approves the same and all items thereof, but reserves the right to authorize amendments to the engineer's report and to reallocate costs and make such other changes as necessary to meet the changing requirements of the Long Island Village defined area, and whereas Section 54.805 Texas Water Code provides that bonds payable wholly or partially from ad valorem taxes shall not be issued until authorized by a majority vote of the resident electors of the Long Island Village defined area voting in an election called and held for that purpose, and whereas the district desires to conduct the election hereinafter ordered as a joint election in conjunction with the elections to be held on the same date by Cameron County and other political subdivisions within Cameron County, and whereas pursuant to Chapter 271, Texas Election Code, parentheses, the Code, the district shall enter into a joint election agreement, parentheses, the Joint Election Agreement, with Cameron County to hold such elections jointly in the election precincts that can be served by common polling places, parentheses, subject to Section 271.003 Texas Election Code, which permits the regular Cameron County polling places to be used for a common polling place in a joint election, and further permits the use of a common polling place that is located outside the boundary of the election precinct of the district if the location can adequately and conveniently serve the affected voters and will facilitate the orderly conduct of the election, and whereas the Board wishes to proceed with the ordering of said election, now therefore, be it ordered by the Board of Directors of the Laguna Madre Water District that Section 1. The matters and facts set out in the preamble of this order are hereby found and declared to be true and complete. Section 2. The engineering report estimates of costs hereinabove mentioned is hereby approved, provided, however, the district reserves the right to authorize amendments to the engineer's report and to reallocate costs and make such other changes as necessary to meet the changing requirements of the Long Island Village defined area. Section 3. An election is hereby ordered and shall be held within the district on May 7, 2022, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. The election is to be conducted by Cameron County, as provided by the Code in the Joint Election Agreement. Voting for the election on Election Day and early voting shall occur on the dates and during the hours and at the designated polling places as set forth in Exhibit A, attached hereto, which exhibit is hereby made a part hereof for all intents and purposes. Exhibit A shall be modified to include additional or different Election Day polling places required to conform to the Code and the Joint Election Agreement. The presiding judge, alternate presiding judge, and election clerks for each of the election precincts and the polling places shall be appointed by Cameron County pursuant to the Joint Election Agreement. Section 4. The following proposition shall be submitted to the resident electors of the Long Island Village defined area. Laguna Madre Water District Proposition A for Long Island Village defined area. Shall the Long Island Village defined area be designated, shall the Board of Directors of the Laguna Madre Water District be authorized to issue bonds for the Long Island Village defined area in one or more issues or series in the aggregate principal amount of $20,800,000, maturing serially or otherwise in such installments as are fixed by said board over a period or periods not exceeding 35 years from their date or dates, bearing interest at any rate or rates, and to sell said bonds at any price or prices, provided that the net effective interest rate on any issue or series of said bonds shall not exceed the maximum legal limit in effect at the time of issuance of each issue or series of bonds, all as may be determined by the Board of Directors of said district, for the purpose or purposes of purchasing, constructing, acquiring, owning, operating, repairing, improving, extending, or paying for district works, improvements, facilities, plants, equipment, and appliances to benefit the Long Island Village defined area, and all costs needed to accomplish the purposes of the district authorized by Article 16, Section 59 of the Texas Constitution, the Texas Water Code, or any other law to provide the works, improvements, facilities, plants, equipment, and appliances to expand and improve the district's waterworks system and sewer system within the Long Island Village defined area, including but not limited to all additions to such systems and all works, improvements, facilities, plants, equipment, appliances, interests in property, and contract rights needed therefor, administration, interest, and operating costs during construction, funding a contingency fund, and administrative facilities needed in connection therewith, and to levy and pledge and cause to be assessed and collected annual ad valorem taxes on all taxable property in the Long Island Village defined area, sufficient without limit as to rate or amount, to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds. Section 5. Voting in the election for the propositions shall be by the use of electronic or paper ballots, which shall show the proposition in both English and Spanish, and which shall conform to the requirements of federal law, including the Help America Vote Act and the Texas Election Code, as amended. The order for items on the ballot shall be in accordance with the Texas Election Code. The ballot used in the election shall contain the following: Laguna Madre Water District Proposition A for Long Island Village defined area. For or against. Designation of Long Island Village defined area and the issuance of $20,800,000 in bonds to expand and improve the district's waterworks system and sewer system in the Long Island Village defined area. Taxes sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds will be imposed. Each voter shall vote on the proposition by placing an X in the square beside the statement indicating the way he or she wishes to vote. Section 6. Oral assistance in Spanish shall be made available to all persons requiring such assistance. Any person requiring oral assistance in Spanish should contact the presiding judge or the early voting clerk. Section 7. Any qualified voter for this election may vote early by personal appearance at the early voting polling locations, dates, and times set forth in the attached Exhibit A. The early voting clerk shall be appointed by the elections administrator and pursuant to the joint election agreement. An early voting ballot board will be created by Cameron County pursuant to the joint election agreement to process early voting results. Section 8. The election shall be held and conducted, and returns shall be made to the board in accordance with state and federal law, including the Federal Help America Vote Act and the Texas Election Code, as modified by Chapters 49 and 54, Texas Water Code. The General Manager or the Director of Finance are each hereby authorized and instructed to enter into the joint election agreement with Cameron County for the purposes of carrying out the purposes of this section. Section 9. General Statements for Proposition A. In accordance with the provisions of Section 3.009 (b) Texas Election Code, it is hereby found and determined that A. The proposition language that will appear on the ballot is set forth in Section 5 hereof. B. The purpose for which the bonds are to be authorized is set forth in Section 4 hereof. C. The principal amount of the debt obligations to be authorized is set forth in Sections 4 and 5 hereof. D. As set forth in Sections 4 and 5 hereof, if the bonds are approved by the voters, the board will be authorized to levy annual ad valorem taxes on all taxable property in the Long Island Village defined area of the district, sufficient, without limit as to rate or amount, to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds and the cost of any credit agreements executed in connection with the bonds. E. Based upon the bond market conditions at the date of adoption of this order, the maximum interest rate for any series of the bonds is estimated to be 4%, as calculated in accordance with applicable law. Such estimate takes into account a number of factors, including the issuance schedule, maturity schedule, and the expected bond ratings of the proposed bonds. Such estimated maximum interest rate is provided as a matter of information, but is not a limitation on the interest rate at which the bonds, or any series thereof, may be sold. As set forth in Section 4 hereof, if the bonds are approved, they may be issued in one or more series to mature serially over a period not to exceed 35 years. G. The aggregate amount of the outstanding principal of the district's debt obligations through respective maturity, all of which are secured by an unlimited tax levied for debt service purposes, as of the date of this order is $11,705,000. H. The aggregate amount of the outstanding interest of the district's debt obligations, all of which are secured by an unlimited tax levied for debt service purposes, as of the date of this order is $2,446,834. I. The ad valorem debt service tax rate for the district for the 2021-2022 fiscal year is $0.038201 per $100 of taxable assessed valuation. Additional information can be found on the voter information document incorporated herein as Exhibit B. Section 10. All qualified resident electors of the district shall be entitled to vote in the elections. Section 11. The district shall cause a copy of this order, in English and Spanish, to be posted and published as notice of the election, notice, required by Sections 4.003 A, 1A, B, and F, Texas Election Code. The General Manager and the Director of Finance are authorized to correct, complete, and revise the notice to conform to changes required by the joint election agreement or that occur subsequent to the passage of this order. Section 12. Immediately after the election, the officers holding same shall make and deliver returns of the results thereof to the Secretary of the Board who shall safely keep them and deliver same to the board, at which the board shall canvass the returns and declare the results of the election pursuant to 49.101 of the Texas Water Code and Section 67.003 Texas Election Code as amended. Section 13. The chairman and secretary are authorized and directed to take any action necessary to carry out the provisions of this order. Section 14. It is hereby found that the meeting at which this order has been considered and adopted is open to the public, as required by law, and that written notice of the time, place, and subject matter of said meeting, and to the proposed adoption of this order, was given as required by 49.063 Texas Water Code as amended. The board further ratifies and confirms said written notice and the contents and posting thereof. Passed and approved this 16th day of February 2022. Exhibit A. District's website, https://www.lmwd.org/ County's website, https://www.cameroncountytx.gov/elections/. Early voting by personal appearance, April 25th - April 29th, 2022, 9 a.m. - 7 p.m. April 30th, 2022, 10 a.m. - 5 p.m. May 2nd - May 3rd, 2022, 9 a.m. - 7 p.m. Cameron County Courthouse Judicial Complex, 954 East Harrison Street, Brownsville, Texas, 78520, main location. Brownsville Public Library, 2600 Central Boulevard, Brownsville, Texas, 78520. Southmost Public Library, 4320 Southmost Road, Brownsville, Texas, 78521. Texas Southmost College, TSC Youth Center, 80 Fort Brown, Brownsville, Texas, 78250. Brownsville Navigation District Boardroom, 1000 Faust Road, Brownsville, Texas, 78526. Harlingen County Annex Building, 3302 Wilson Road, Harlingen, Texas, 78552. San Benito Community Building, 210 East Haywood Street, San Benito, Texas, 78586. Los Fresnos Community Center, 204 North Brazil Street, Los Fresnos, Texas, 78566. Port Isabel City Hall, 305 East Maxan Street, Port Isabel, Texas, 78578. American Legion Hall, 219 East Commercial Ave, La Feria, Texas, 78559. Rio Hondo Municipal Civic Center, 121 North Arroyo Boulevard, Rio Hondo, Texas, 78583. Los Indios Community Center, 309 Haywood Street, Los Indios, Texas, 78586. City of Primera City Hall, 22893 Stort Place Road, Primera, Texas, 78552. Combs Community Center, 21646 Hand Road, Combs, Texas, 78552. Harlingen Cultural Arts Center, 576, 76 Drive, Harlingen, Texas, 78550. Town of Rancho Viejo City Hall, 3301 Carmen Ave, Rancho Viejo, Texas, 78575. Bob Clark Social Services Center, 9901 California Road, Brownsville, Texas, 78521. Santa Maria ISD Administrative Building Boardroom, 11119, Military Highway 281, Santa Maria, Texas 78592. Harlingen Convention Center, 701 Harlingen Heights Drive, Harlingen, Texas 78552. Harlingen City Hall, Town Hall Meeting Room, 502 East Tyler Ave, Harlingen, Texas 78550. Applications for voting by mail should be received no later than the close of business on April 26, 2022. Applications should be sent to Early Voting Clerk Remy Garza, mailing address P.O. Box 3587, Brownsville, Texas 78523. Physical address 1050 East Madison Street, Brownsville, Texas 78520. Phone 956-544-0809. Fax 956-550-7298. Email elections@co.cameron.tx.us. Election Day, May 7, 2022, 7 a.m.-7 p.m. District Precinct 1, County Precinct 59, Part. Polling location, Port Isabel City Hall, 305 East Maxon Street, Port Isabel, Texas, 78578. Exhibit B, Voter Information Document. Laguna Madre Water District, Proposition A for Long Island Village Defined Area. For, against. Designation of Long Island Village Defined Area and the issuance of $20,800,000 in bonds to expand and improve the district's waterworks system and sewer system in the Long Island Village Defined Area. Taxes sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds will be imposed. Principal of debt obligations to be authorized, $20,800,000. Estimated interest for the debt obligations to be authorized, presuming an interest rate of 4%, $14,612,892. Estimated combined principal and interest required to pay on time and in full the debt obligations to be authorized amortized over 30 years, $35,412,892. As of the date the election was ordered, principal of all outstanding debt obligations for the Water District. However, there is no outstanding debt attributable solely to the designated area, $11,705,000. As of the date the election was ordered, the estimated interest on all outstanding debt obligations for the Water District. However, there is no outstanding debt attributable solely to the designated area, $2,446,834. Estimated combined principal and interest required to pay on time and in full all outstanding debt obligations amortized over 30 years, $49,564,726. Estimated maximum annual increase in the amount of taxes on a resident's homestead with an appraised value of $100,000 to repay the debt obligations to be authorized, if approved, $1,016. The remainder of this page intentionally left blank. And that's the end. Thanks for listening. I'm Pete Smith.